Cuba is one of those, another complex, difficult problem areas whereby we have a proximity to the country. We have many Cuban Americans who had to flee with only the clothes on their back, whose property was confiscated by the Cuban regime decades ago, and then since then put in place a policy where there has been a relatively strict embargo, ongoing tensions between the two countries. I don't think there is anyone here who doesn't look forward to the day in which the United States and Cuba are not just physical neighbors, but neighbors in the sense of having some type of healthy interaction, maybe even an interdependency, as we do with so many other countries in the vicinity. The difficulty becomes the legacy problem of so many Americans having been treated so brutally and unjustly by the Castro regime, and not empowering that regime to continue that behavior into the future. That was the original logic of the embargoes and such. I was talking with someone yesterday about the potential of visiting there. I think that movement toward more openness and dialogue is important. But we can't hide from harsh realities that are still present, namely the repression of human rights activists who are in Cuba, the issue of reparations to people who had everything stripped from them by Castro. How do we move forward with urging the country to develop systems of governance that protect human dignity and rights and the basic freedoms that we enjoy? We can't just sort of put those off to the side. If we are going to move forward in some sort of rapprochement, you have to be willing to pull in the hard conversations and seek creative ways to demand change. It's delicate, it's complex. Once again, we're carrying forward difficult, painful legacies for many Americans. And yet, at the same time, stagnating where we are isn't the answer either. Further empowering, though, potential injustice, we have to be very watchful thereof.
I think Chairman Royce has said that if the president is going now, that he should meet with human rights activists and use the trip to leverage some of the U.S. influence. Is that how you feel?
I would suggest that's perfectly appropriate. The administration has stated that they continue to press the Cubans in this regard. But again, if there's going to be an opening, let's pursue the fullness of an opening and not push aside some of the difficult dynamics that still exist in that country.
Are you hearing from farmers in your state who would welcome closer ties with Cuba?
Of course, but I've had the same conversation with them. And in fact, I had a farmer sitting right where you are one day and said, I said, Jeff, you've given us a fuller perspective on this. We're tending to only think narrowly through the potential for economic benefit, but you've given us a broader perspective that's very important. Look, farmers in general, farmers certainly where I live, are good Americans. And trade policies and other economic benefits, when there are higher callings, such as pursuing basic human goods of justice, farmers know that's a priority, that's important.
Indeed. Well, in that vein, Congressman Fortenberry, we do note that very few Republicans do support this opening to Cuba precisely because of the human rights abuses. On the other hand, your colleague, Republican Senator Jeff Flake from the state of Arizona, has been one of the lone voices, Republican voices, and precisely because, partly because, economic ties can be seen, as an impetus toward greater openings. So the argument being not to in any way ignore or not press for these important changes in human rights, but by the same token, greater opening through trade ties perhaps could promote greater political opening and a way to promote human rights in Cuba.
Senator Flake and I are good friends, and we served together in the House of Representatives before he went to the other body, as we call it. He has always taken that decided perspective. And again, it's a matter of judgment. Has the policy, which is being roundly criticized, that's been in place again for decades, has it potentially led to this moment whereby Castro's the Castro family's intentions of spreading their revolution had actually been contained. That's harder to measure. Had we just ignored that and had liberalized trade policies, would that have extended their ability to affect other countries as they had in Venezuela? They were even moving into Africa, as you recall earlier. It's a hard argument. You can argue this either way. Did we contain their ability to grow their revolution through these policies? Are we at a moment whereby the openness is giving a chance for enhanced dialogue without potentially and enhanced economic activity, without potentially furthering the earlier Castro regime's aims? Hard judgment calls have to be made. And so I think you take it slowly. You, again, put the human rights issue front and center as you move toward more liberalization of person-to-person ties. I think that's the smartest thing to do, the easiest thing to measure, and is the best way to build what we all hope for is better integrated ties with the country once it solves this very painful past human rights difficulties that it has, which is, I shouldn't say past, it's ongoing.